Hi everyone, my name is Paige and I'm going to be discussing the film Mele Murals and how it's important to us as viewers. There are a lot of things I want to talk about, but because of time, I'm just going to focus on two main things. The first being Prime and Estria's lack of knowledge and understanding about their own culture. And I talk about that as a starting point for them. Estria and Prime acknowledged that they started getting into things like tagging, and at one point in the film they even talk about how hip-hop culture was sort of like a replacement culture for them because they knew very little of their own Hawaiian culture. And I mention this specific topic because I know a lot of people, including myself, that are not in touch with their culture, or maybe you don't have that figure in your life who can guide you and inform you through the experiences and traditions of your ancestors. In the video, we see Prime talk about how when he was a kid, he wishes he had a figure like that. And now that he's older and he's in this position, he says, quote, his dream was to give accessibility. And if we put our intersectionality lenses on, we also see that Estria's point of view, where he's half Japanese and half Hawaiian, so it's going to be a completely different experience. He discusses the struggles that he had, where he essentially battled imposter syndrome, and he struggled with specific things like painting the faces of like the Hawaiian deities. And in one of the videos, it had shown that he had particularly difficulty painting the snow goddess, the Hawaiian snow goddess's face. And as he proceeded to paint in the Mele at the school that the documentary focused on, he receives guidance from Auntie Pua, who is one of the respected natives in that area. And after he receives guidance, he recognizes the importance that his ego plays in his paintings, or lack of ego, I should say. Both Estria and Prime talk about how, quote, writing culture, you create a persona and a name. And Estria, the name itself, is something that he created, but with guidance, he recognized that, quote, it's about painting the community story and about taking the ego out. I also really like the quote, ego took me this far, now I don't need it. After he goes on this journey, the faces of Manaoa, I believe is the goddess that he was working on, began to take shape, and when he finished it, it even started raining, which was very rare at the time frame that they were filming. So that just signifies the importance of preparation and guidance that Estria and Prime were taking. We also learned from Reverend Trinity Ordona in Reclaiming the Sacred with Art, Astrology, and Meditation event that the idea that we can take this individualist versus collectivist approach. Individualist meaning your actions are, quote, reflection of you and you alone. That quote is from her slides. And this can also be attached to the ego perspective that we see Estria struggling with. And then we have this collectivism where Reverend Trinity says, quote, individualist is part of the group, where your actions reflect you and the people of your community. The Reverend talks about how individualism is mostly seen in the West, and collectivism is pretty much seen in most of the rest of the world, making it up of 82%, she says. I really enjoyed how she didn't disregard individualism, even though it has been known to be used in colonial oppression. She acknowledges that it's good to have elements of both. Again, just like the ego in Estria's story, it's good to have some and recognize when you don't need it. So if you struggle with maybe this identity crisis or lack of knowledge of your own culture, or you feel like you just aren't involved in as much activism as you want to be in your respective culture, I encourage you to take some action steps and firstly recognize that culture is a sacred and beautiful thing. Also, recognize the positionality of what your ancestors and community look like now, meaning where is the power right now and how does it shape your community. Also, I recognize taking a step back and giving a self-examination of the intentions of becoming culturally knowledgeable. Like we saw Estria battling with his ego, and it wasn't until he let it go that he knew how to take advice from his elder. He gave up his ego to have his community in place of where his ego stood. It does have a time and place, but we use it with purpose and wisely combine our individualism and our collectivism, where we can better advocate for ourselves and ultimately our community. Thank you.
Hi, so for the Mele Murals, Mele Murals is basically a film about how, like, in Hawaii, there is a school specifically where, like, the students and teachers work together as a community pretty much to, you could say, like, reclaim their traditions from the past, from past ancestors, and connect to basically of who they truly were before they were colonized. And fortunately for them, they are being guided by, you know, elders that still have those traditions that were passed down, passing them down to the students and the teachers, you know. And basically, like, the students and the teachers, like I think I had already mentioned this, but like they work together to keep that tradition as like Hawaiians, and they also, like, I think the biggest takeaway was like the fact that they worked so well as a community, and they truly are trying to really get in touch, you could say, get in touch with their roots and their who they are, because like that is a part of them, their traditions from the past, and like their practices, like religious practices too. Like in the film, we see the students and the teachers meditating and being guided to basically paint these murals about their I don't know if it's appropriate to call them gods, you know, but I guess like their gods, or their like guide, like I guess you could say guiders, I guess. But it's basically about that, and like they have to, like, those meditations that guide them is like a way of, like, in a way, like putting their ego aside and allowing their spiritual side to guide them, and again, like them connect as a community. And then and that's in itself like the way that they decolonize from, you know, like from the current society. Excuse me, there's a bug. From the current like, I guess you could say, like, the like this push to completely Americanize the Asian American Pacific Islander community, and they are trying to keep their roots. So, like, again, like they go to the elders for guidance. They have these they really keep in touch with nature themselves, community, And one of the pillars that we can see in the film is like how reconnection. So the community and Mele Murals, like they are trying to reconnect with their past, with their like the ancestors, how they lived, how they meditated, how they were really in tune with nature, and then as well as like keeping like for example like traditional dances, you know. I think also another pillar would be their reclamation and liberation. Like even though like you might just see them as a community, it's a big way to start by staying as a community, by connecting back with their ancestors, and being taught by their elders like how they used to have these practices. I think that's like a start to that liberation for the Asian American Pacific Islander community, and in this case, from the film in Hawaii. And I honestly think that's probably like the best, one of, if not like number one, best ways for people to get in touch with their roots and accept their roots, because not everybody accepts the